For decades, the Benny Hill Show dominated television screens, captivating audiences with rapid-fire slapstick, cheeky innuendo, and an unmistakable theme song that became instantly recognizable. Benny Hill himself grew into a genuine comedy icon, his mischievous grin and larger-than-life antics winning him fans across the globe. But behind the constant laughter and beloved sketches, tension was steadily building. One particularly controversial sketch would eventually spark backlash intense enough to help seal the show's fate, exposing deeper cultural anxieties and ultimately contributing to its cancellation. To understand how a program adored by millions met such a contentious end, it helps to start with the man behind it all. Alfred Hawthorne Hill, known to the world as Benny Hill, was born on January 21st, 1924, in Southampton, Hampshire, England, though some sources place his birth year as 1925. His family history carried a notable artistic thread. While his father, Alfred Hill, ran a surgical appliance shop, his grandfather, Henry Hill, had once worked as a circus clown, planting an early seed of performance tradition that would eventually shape Benny's own path. His mother, Helen, also played a formative role in his upbringing. He attended Taunton School in Southampton, though his education didn't lead directly into show business. Instead, his early working life was a patchwork of unrelated jobs. He worked at Woolworths, delivered milk, operated a bridge, drove vehicles, and even played drums, gaining a breadth of real-world experience that would later inform the wide range of characters he portrayed on screen. His actual entry into entertainment came when he took a position as assistant stage manager for a touring revue, giving him first-hand exposure to the mechanics of live theatrical production, timing, coordination, and stagecraft, skills that would prove essential to his television career. In 1942, during World War II, Hill was called into military service, training as a mechanic with the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, a British Army unit responsible for maintaining and repairing equipment. That technical training sharpened his resourcefulness, skills that would later carry into his creative work. During his service, he also worked as a truck driver and searchlight operator, and in September 1944 he was deployed to Normandy during one of the war's most pivotal campaigns, supporting the Allied liberation of Western Europe. Before the war ended, Hill transferred into the Combined Services Entertainment Division, which provided morale-boosting performances for British and Allied troops. It was here that he truly began developing his craft, learning to engage audiences under all kinds of conditions and experimenting with comedic timing and delivery, the foundation of everything that followed. Hill drew deep inspiration from the British music hall tradition, a popular entertainment style combining comedy, song, dance, and magic that had flourished in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The bold, theatrical comedic personas of music hall performers left a lasting impression on him. He eventually adopted the stage name Benny as a tribute to American comedian Jack Benny, admired for his precise timing and dry delivery. Armed with wartime performance experience and inspiration from music hall tradition, Hill set out to establish himself in show business. His first major break came through radio, the dominant entertainment medium of the era. He debuted on the popular program Variety Bandbox on October 5, 1947, and his sharp wit quickly resonated with listeners, marking an important turning point in his career. As television began gaining cultural traction, Hill made his first TV appearance in 1950, and the visual medium opened new creative possibilities, allowing him to incorporate physical comedy and visual gags that would eventually define his signature style. In 1962, he starred in a sitcom anthology titled Benny Hill, portraying a different character in each episode and demonstrating impressive range. By 1964, he even ventured into classical theater, playing Nick Bottom in a television adaptation of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, blending his natural comedic instincts with traditional stagecraft. Between 1964 and 1966, he returned to radio with Benny Hill Time on the BBC Light program, a show known for its topical satire, including a memorable James Bond parody in 1964, and recurring characters like Harry Hill and Fred Scuttle, who became fixtures of his comedic universe. Despite this growing body of work, Hill's early career wasn't without struggle. His stage performances often received mixed reviews, and his radio career had its share of inconsistency. Still, this formative period helped him refine a comedic style built around sharp wit and absurdist flair, setting the stage for what came next. On January 15th, 1955, The Benny Hill Show premiered on the BBC, launching what would become a decades-long television career. From the outset, the show carried the influence of British music hall tradition, blending live sketches with pre-recorded segments and leaning heavily on slapstick, innuendo, parody, and visual comedy. Hill's world came to life through a rotating cast of collaborators, including Patricia Hayes, Jeremy Hawk, Peter Vernon, Ronnie Brody, and co-writer Dave Freeman, who played a significant role in shaping the show's material through the late 1950s and early 1960s. One especially beloved figure was Jackie Wright, a bald character actor whose stoic reactions to Hill's recurring head-slapping gag made him a fan favorite and the perfect comedic foil. Although Hill remained largely with the BBC until 1968, he briefly worked with other networks, including ITV and ATV, allowing him to experiment creatively and reach new audiences. A major turning point came in 1969, when the show moved from the BBC to Thames Television. This shift transformed the program's format, moving away from weekly episodes toward hour-long specials that gave Hill more room to develop elaborate sketches and musical numbers. Under Thames, the show achieved genuine international acclaim, eventually airing in over 140 countries. Hill's blend of physical comedy and broadly accessible humor translated well across cultural and language barriers, cementing his status as a global comedic figure. While Hill served as the primary creative force behind the series, he occasionally incorporated material from other writers, often without on-screen credit, a common practice at the time. One notable example involved cast member Cherry Gillum, who reportedly sold Hill a sketch idea in 1976 that later appeared in a 1977 broadcast. One of the show's most iconic elements was its recurring chase sequence, which typically closed each episode with a burst of frantic, exaggerated physical comedy. These scenes were filmed using undercranking, a technique involving a slower filming speed played back at normal speed to create an amplified, sped-up motion effect. The chases often featured a colorful cast of recurring figures: police officers, elderly women, vicars, and scantily dressed women, all set to the now-famous instrumental Yakety Sax by Boots Randolph, a tune so closely associated with Hill's comedy that it eventually became known simply as the Benny Hill theme. In 2015, it was voted the #1 television theme in an ITV poll, a testament to its lasting cultural impact. As a show entered the 1980s, it evolved further with the introduction of Hill's Angels, a dance troupe of young women who added glamour and physical spectacle to the program through choreographed routines and comedic sketches. Their addition broadened the show's appeal, but also drew increasing criticism from those who viewed the portrayal of women as outdated or reductive. Sue Upton, one of the longest-serving Angels, became a signature presence thanks to her comedic timing, while fellow cast member Jane Leaves later achieved international fame, playing Daphne on the sitcom Frasier, an early stepping stone in her career. The show's supporting ensemble remained strong throughout this period, with regulars like Henry McGee, Bob Todd, and Jackie Wright providing consistent balance to Hill's exaggerated characters. The show also introduced Hill's Little Angels, a group of child performers, many of whom were relatives of cast and crew, including the children of Sue Upton and director Dennis Kirkland, adding a lighter, family-oriented element to certain sketches. Another notable performer, Jenny Lee Wright, joined in 1970 and became known for blending comedic timing with self-deprecating humor, embodying the mix of comedy and sensuality that had come to define the show's identity. Despite its continued popularity, the show faced growing scrutiny over its portrayal of women and its reliance on innuendo and physical comedy. As cultural attitudes shifted throughout the 1980s, many began questioning whether Hill's comedic style had simply become outdated. These criticisms, combined with evolving television tastes and internal pressures at Thames Television, eventually contributed to the show's cancellation in 1989. Even so, The Benny Hill Show remains a landmark in British television history, a program that pushed comedic boundaries and entertained millions through its distinctive blend of wordplay, parody, and physical humor, leaving a lasting influence on generations of comedians despite its polarizing legacy. The most significant wave of criticism came from alternative comedian Ben Elton, whose public condemnation of the show sparked broader debate about comedy's cultural responsibility. Elton accused the program of contributing to harmful attitudes and behavior toward women, arguing that its portrayal of women as objects of pursuit reinforced damaging stereotypes. He voiced these concerns publicly on the television show Saturday Live and in a January 1987 issue of Q magazine, arguing that media representations could meaningfully shape real-world social behavior. Reactions to Elton's criticism were sharply divided. Some observers felt his attack was excessive, with one writer for The Independent comparing it to watching an elderly relative being unfairly targeted by younger critics, suggesting Hill's humor, while dated, didn't warrant such harsh condemnation. Others defended Hill by arguing it was unreasonable to hold a comedy program responsible for broader societal issues, with GQ magazine drawing an absurdist comparison to blaming classical pianists for unrelated global problems, criticizing what they viewed as an overly moralistic stance. Interestingly, Elton later poked fun at his own reputation for political correctness in a sketch on Harry Enfield and Chums, portraying an exaggerated caricature of himself being chased by angry women to the tune of yakety sax, a self-aware nod to the very controversy he'd sparked. The debate even drew commentary from Britain's Broadcasting Standards Council, whose spokesperson acknowledged the humor once considered harmless, such as women being chased in comedic sketches, was increasingly viewed as offensive under changing cultural standards. Despite the controversy, The Benny Hill Show remains a significant chapter in British television history. At its peak in the early 1970s, the show drew more than 21 million viewers in 1971 alone, making it one of the most-watched programs in the country. Hill's contributions were formally recognized as well. He won the BAFTA Television Award for Best Writer in 1972 and received a nomination for Best Entertainment Performance, highlighting his dual talents as both writer and performer. By the late 1970s, the Thames Television version of the show had found major success in the United States through syndication, introducing Hill's comedy to an international audience and earning Emmy nominations for Outstanding Variety Program in 1980 and 1981. In 1984, he received the prestigious Rose d'Or Award, further cementing his reputation as a pioneering figure in television comedy across Europe.